handle it.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Watch out! They've got a mech!
Iya, iya, tes naik 1, 2, 3. Kana?
You are the jump leader. Good luck. You are the jump leader. Good luck. You are the jump leader. Good luck.
Ada tinggal kat mic ke?
Move here to get
Wah.
armor.
Ada Thailand kat mic nombor 2.
Move here to get armor.
Let's go here to get armor.
Welcome to Battle Royale. The match is about to start. Time for the mission.
Ya, masuk.
Hurry up. Leave this
Oh, cepat.
smoke.
Nak ada luar ke nak ke dalam? Pandai. Pandai dia. Let's go here to get ammo. Follow tak ni? Acu jadi tu. Sorry mas. Ada orang turun dah. Aku try ambil helikopter. Kenapa helikopter ni? Kena scam. Ada helikopter. Ada helikopter Mar. Tolong aku Mar. Hello. Help me. I don't want to die.
Your teammate has been killed. Get the dog tag and help them return to battle.
Oh no.
First blood.
Nah, first blood lagi. Lepas tu dekat dengan aku pula tu. Wah, ajar sungguh. Tolong Mar. I don't want to die. Lantak kau lah suruh ambil block tag pula. Suka-sukanya dia. Nak turun jauh-jauh suruh ambil block tag. Suka-sukanya. Bro. Number two. You can get out. Very idiot. Oh, number 2. I know you can hear me, number 2. Just get out from the game, motherfucker. Alah, nombor 3 datang pula. Nombor 3 dia nak pergi tolong tu lah. Kawan dia. Nama Romeo tu. Romeo Raika. Makan dia zombie, main zombie gigit dia.
Chip terminal is almost ready.
kenapa dia pergi scan dot tag dia?
Your teammate will return to the battle when the next revive flight arrives.
Baru nak jadi jahat. Wah ajar bhai. Dia boleh pula pergi scan dot tag dia.
Your teammate is on the revive flight. The safe zone is collapsing.
Mati biarlah, mati ya tu.
The airdrop is coming.
Minta-minta nombor 3 tu mati. Aku rasa apa yang nak mati ni? Zone jauh lah. Lepas tu aku kena lalu kawasan hotspot. Masih ada terawih ke kat rumah kau? Kat sandakan masih ada terawih. Oh masih ada. Mengapa KP lah?
Engaging the enemies. Enemy down.
Tengok, mati lagi nombor 2.
Revive flight will arrive in 1 minute.
Awal lah bang, numbang aduh. Tanda kenderaan lah. Ada.
I'm down.
Mah? Mana kau?
Down! Engaging the enemy!
Kau dekat?
Dog tag. Return to the battle.
Station. Ada kereta.
Don't give up. You can still return to the battle.
Kau dekat dengan nombor 2 eh? Nombor 3 baru situ sekali. Apa. Nino. Ambulance. Wih.
Release the holographic decoys.
Tak apa.
The airdrop is coming.
Relax je. Aku tak ada skill lah. Lari dia ke enemy tadi. Oh, sebaik ada. Bodoh. Woi, jangan miss. Kepala botol betul. Dia ambil.
Yo, chips ready for upgrade. Your teammate has scanned your dog tags. Wait for the revive.
Tak ada kereta. Wajar dia tinggal aku pula. Hai. Wih, baru glitch kejap. Tiba-tiba dah zone keluar. Mana? Aku ambil. Dah jauh dah. Lupa pula aku. Ada.
Your teammate is on the revive flight. You return to the battle. Airdrop has been delivered.
Zombies incoming.
Tahu apa. Kau mana? Apa? On my way.
The revived flight will arrive in 1 minute.
Peluru ada berapa? Peluru ada
Your
berapa?
terminal is almost ready.
Alright.
Half of the
Mana
teams are
drop?
eliminated.
Oh, ada.
The safe zone is
Ada orang belakang, ada orang belakang.
The airdrop is coming. Enemies.
Wih! Sakit. Kau bawa.
Using first aid kit now.
Zone dah kecil. Wih, aduh. Okay, stop. Ada helikopter.
Zombies incoming.
The revived
Oh,
flight
ada orang,
will
ada orang.
arrive in 1 minute.
Tembak. Tak. Jom, naik. Ah. Kita kena tembak.
Using bandages now.
Oh, kalau ada orang pakai yang tu, kita dia auto baiki tu helikopter. Kalau tak aktifkan pun, dia lah ambil kau punya terminal.
Fuel is ready for upgrade.
Dalam ni ada kotak kat tempat pelaluan ada.
Bandages now.
Ni banyak kotak ni. Ada orang pasang ni. Ada orang pasang hijau trap. Ada tak? Buka. Apa nama kau punya tu? Alat ni.
Arrive in 1 minute.
Aku nak repair aku punya tu.
Move here to get armor.
Thank you. Ada orang.
Zombies incoming.
Astagfirullahaladzim. Kenapa dia frame-nya auto buka ni? Itu tuh. Kalau tanda. Bajunya dia. Bodoh lah dari
Is almost ready.
buka skill aku pula.
The safe zone is collapsing.
The airdrop is coming.
Jom. Ya, ada orang belakang.
The last revive flight will arrive in 1 minute.
Oke.
Get the dog tagged and
Jom,
help
jom.
return to the battle.
Jauh. Mati.
Down to the last 5 teams.
Kena ambush dengan tim tadi tu. Janganlah freeze. Tuh, yang gerak.
Using bandages now.
Sniper ke? Aku sikit je. Tak jangka.
Zombies incoming.
Apa besta? Ini ada tu. Mana? Tak ada.
The airdrop is coming.
Apa. Nanti kau buang lah tu kau punya laser tu. Laser tak function buat sniper. Ganti dengan silencer ataupun tu magazine. Aku ada tu pakai tapi kau buang dah.
The safe zone is collapsing.
Ada orang. Tembak. Oh, udah. Atas kita ada orang tu. Sakitnya. Dekat bawah je dia. Sakitnya bukan dia. Tipu lah. Sorry mas, tak boleh sakit. Eh. Apa tu? Apa dia? Apa dia? Oh, aku ada. Kenapa? Ada. Kenapa? Sakit ya? Tapi aku punya level rendah. Tak upgrade. Sebab tak cantik. Aku tengok macam jelek. Ya, aku try. Ya, aku try apa? Upgrade dulu lah. Kalau apa? Bagi tu aku ada, tapi tengok macam tak sakit tu, aku tak pakai. Apa lagi tak Allah Masalah insert damage. Aku buat damage kau-kau punya 34. Aduh, aku kan tak buka lagi lah. Banyak lagi tak terbuka dia main. Okey, dah upgrade. Aku okey. Kita go. Nanti dia tu tipu tau. Aku tembak kepala dia banyak kali tak mati. Padahal dia kat bawah ni. Mustahil kalau tak kena kepala. Kau rasa betul kepala tu. Kepala batu betul. Guys tu yang masa aku kenok tu, kau paling smoke kan? Dekat pelindung tu aku duduk belakang, paling belakang lah, dekat rapat dengan dinding. Masih boleh tembak aku. Dari bawah dia tembak aku. Inilah kandang. Akimbo? Kenapa Akimbo? Mungkin. Oh, dah ada. Nah, macam mana nak dapat benda tu? Kat mana eh? Tak dapat. Tak ada pun sini. Apa nama dia? Tak ada. Tak ada. Oh, FE Phoenix. Oh, dia boleh dua eh. Macam mana? Tengok. Ya, ada mission macam tu. Macam mana nak tengok yang dua tu? Macam mana nak tengok mission dia, Bar? Betul. Tak ada pun. Sana. Dekat perk tu. Kena dapat triple kill tanpa mati. Kena weapon. Combo tu kena apa? Kena dapat 3 kill. Triple kill tanpa mati sebanyak 20 kali. Senang pula. Susah. Ini juga. Apa ya? Kemana makan jagung?
Welcome to Battle
Kau kucing, tak boleh makan jagung lah.
About to start. Time for the mission. Get ready.
Okay. Turun mana? Turun dulu, aku nak tu je minum apa. Turun dah aku.
Engaging the enemies. Enemy down.
Bapak first blood.
Enemy eliminated.
Yo. Ramai tu squad dia tu. Tengok nama pun tahu dah. Maaf. Saya mati.
Your teammate has been killed. Get the dog tags and help them return to the battle.
Uish, terus off cow. Tahu dia tak ada orang nak selamatkan dia.
Zombies incoming.
Main squad tapi akhirnya kita dua yang bertahan.
The revived flight will arrive in 1 minute.
Biasalah, pro player. Astaghfirullahalazim, tertembak dah. Tertembak aku tertembak. Tak ada angin, tak ada ribut, tertembak.
Terminal is almost ready. The safe zone is collapsing.
The airdrop is coming.
The airdrop is coming.
Using adrenaline shot now.
Apa lagi? Apa tu? Iya. Kenapa? Oh. Tak ada. Aku jumpa aku pakai. Infrared kill house ni ada enemy banyak tak kill house. Enemy in range, enemy on range, enemy and range, enemy airdrop. Enemy like a fly.
Enemy down.
Oh, jangan mati.
The revived flight will arrive in 1 minute.
Jangan tinggalkan aku seorang marah. Tinggalkan aku seorang tak apa. Hehe. Aku tinggalkan kau seorang tak apa. Kau jangan tinggalkan aku seorang ke sini. Tak licin lah sekiranya aku.
Using
Tak
adrenaline
nekat.
shot now.
Macam mana nak buat sekiranya jadi licin ni? Tak licin lah. Tak sedap nak apa deret-deret jari.
Enemy eliminated. The airdrop is coming.
Faham. Ya, pasang tu tim dia.
Using adrenaline shot now.
Ni ada asbal. Gua ada uang. Betul. Datang kat Sakura. Sakura. Kat mana? Sakura. Wah, cerita.
The revived flight will arrive in 1 minute.
Lepas tu tinggalkan aku seorang. Baik tu. Jauh ni aku nak ambil doktor ni. Alah. Nampak je lah helikopter.
Zombies incoming.
Silo kan. Tak terbuka. Kat mana lagi airdrop ah?
The airdrop is coming.
Dekat kill house je. Apa lain ni? Lagi. Aku nak ambil sniper. Outlaw, ada orang ke? Alah, aku orang jangan ambil. Pun ada semua orang kat situ. Main aja. Macam lah kita snipe dari atas.
The revived flight will arrive in 1 minute.
Engaging the enemies.
Jangan kau masuk macam tu. Kata dah jangan masuk macam tu.
Return to the battle.
Apa asal sniper dah lagi sedap ni? So macam mana ni? Aku nak tolong jauh.
Chip terminal is almost ready.
Suruh snipe lagi ambush. Ntar. Tunggulah seminit lagi ya. Terpaksa lepaskan next zone.
The safe zone is collapsing. Airdrop is delivered.
Nah, ada orang betul atas kereta kau.
Your teammate has scanned your dog tags. Wait for the revived flight.
Sorry lah Marek, kena tunggu seminit lagi. 2 minit. Buat panic recall. Oi, pelancau tu. Enemy pula sini. Ya Allah.
Teams are eliminated.
Sini Viper. Sialah. Rezeki. 5 hari lagi sebelum penentu kemenangan Warrior Path antara tim biru atau merah. Boleh comeback. Ada masa lagi. 3 poin je betul. Menang apa-apa Biru 17. 173 million. Oh, menang dapat border Tu je. Border je. Alah. Pernah dapat border je. Okay. Kadabara. Kadabara. Tut. 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 Bus station again. Let's go. Yeay. Ya, aku berdiri atas helikopter. Alah, jahatnya. Yang ni pun tak nak gerak lah. Tak gerak tadi. Gerak lah. Boleh pula dia duduk situ. Tak nak terbang.
Move here to get armor.
Wait.
Welcome to Battle Royale. The match is about to start. Time for the mission. Get ready.
Bus station guys. Bus station guys.
We can land here.
Tapi bus station dekat dengan ni Alamak, kalau orang follow. Bus station dekat dengan HQ. Amar. Okey tu. Aku lupa follow tu. Aku baru nak terang follow awal betul terjun. Dah tak. Ramainya. Ramai sini martul. Aduh, ramai. Ya. 5 squad kat sini. Aku nampak ada 50 orang.
Engaging the enemies. Enemy down.
Itu dia, nampak yang first blood dari situ.
One down.
Hai,
Return to the battle.
aku fikir first blood. Oh, aku fikir kau dapat first blood. Kau yang di first blood kan. Hai, mana? Tak ada kereta tu. Hai, tak gerak. Tidak. Wih. Ya,
Gather round.
ya. Wih. Dah. Let's go, mission penyelamatan Karin Kashi pada pukul 2043. Mulakan dari sekarang. Banyak ada kesulitan yang dialami oleh misi penyelamat untuk mencapai tempat tujuan kerana dihalangi oleh bentuk muka bumi yang tidak stabil dan melintasi segala bukit-bukit, merendahi segala danau dan hutan bakau. Dan kelajuan berapa kelajuan itu? Mana dah tengok? Ya. Cuba pecut, memecut. Dan nampaknya misi bantuan dengan helikopter pun diarahkan untuk bergerak ke HQ. Aduh dah. Oh,
The airdrop is coming.
tidak, bertahan. Bertahan. Terpaksa meletakkan kenderaan jauh daripada tempat kawasan kerana dikhawatiri akan memanggil enemy, walaupun enemy sedang berperang kat sebelah kita. Tapi tidak mengapa. Teruskan misi anda. Kat mana kau ni? Nampak jauh. Klik kepada sikit. Itu dia, berjaya mendapatkan dot tag. Jadi di scan. Sudah berjaya men-scan dan akan berundur daripada kawasan kejadian. Oh, ada helikopter. Terima kasih untuk helikopternya. Oh, ya ke? Lantaklah dia. Kali lagi misi penyelamatan untuk nombor 1. Silakan kembali ke sini ya. Cepat. Faster. Berjaya, misi kita nampaknya berjaya di sini. Teruskan mengambil nombor 2. Alah, saya tak rapat bang. Mana?
Kill ship ready for upgrade.
Ya Allah, lagging. Ya lagging. Ya toyiban. Woi. Ampun. Sabarlah. Itu tak tahu sabarlah. Nampaknya misi penyelamatan diteruskan untuk mengambil
Airdrop
nombor
is
2.
coming.
Di manakah anda? Dekat tu lah crash tu, dekat dengan estate. Dia pun ada terminal kat situ, boleh terupgrade.
Zombies incoming.
Pergi dekat dengan terminal, landing terus dekat terminal.
Kill ship ready for upgrade.
Hey, nice.
The revived flight will arrive in 1 minute.
Nak gimana pak? Oh, tak lepas lah. Jadi dekat dinner. Dekat sini rasa okey. Pergilah looting. Nah dah. Ini bok je nak naik. Nanti pergi kat dinner. But... Oh, terkejut aku.
The airdrop is coming.
Oh, 5 multi kill. Gila-gila pro orang. Wih. Ada orang masuk dah sini. Ada bot masuk.
The revived flight will arrive in 1 minute.
Engaging the enemies.
Chip terminal is almost ready.
Sniper ada banyak sih.
The safe zone is collapsing.
Kau nak tak? Kau tak aku
The
ambil.
airdrop is coming.
Aku nak tukar satu weapon.
Use an adrenaline shot now.
Zombies incoming.
Engaging the enemy.
Oh yo. Berapa damage dia hilang?
The revived flight will arrive in 1 minute.
Oh. Yang bawa kereta tadi kau ke? Bukan eh? Sari-sari.
Using
Hamba hanya bergurau. Ni ada airdrop. Wait, airdrop sini. Airdrop.
Enemy spotted.
Never mind. Airdrop there.
Serius lah, ada bakar-bakar. Ada peluru. Kau ada peluru sniper? Minta dua. Dua kotak. Thank you. Try pakai outlaw pun.
I'm down.
Woi. Sini. Belakang kotak. Ya Allah.
Engaging the enemies. Enemy down.
Engaging the enemy.
Pundeknya.
Enemy down.
Dari mana dia tu?
Enemy eliminated. I'm down.
Wih. Wih, sniper. Di atas.
Enemies near.
Ya Allah.
The revived flight will arrive in 1 minute.
Siut lah.
Your teammate has been
Ish.
killed. Get the dog tag and help them return to the
Wih, dari
battle.
mana? Gila lah sniper dah mantap lah.
Your teammate has scanned your dog tags. Wait for the revived flight.
Sayang ni barang aku. Gila sniper dia mantap ni. Customize tu. Dapat customize dia.
Chip
Kecap.
terminal is almost ready.
Dia pakai QL apa entah dia. Dengan silencer. Jangan ambil weapon aku tai.
Teammate is on the revived flight. Soon return to the battle.
Mantap dekat.
Airdrop has been delivered. The safe zone is collapsing.
Ini kotak aku. Mana kotak aku?
The last revived flight will arrive in 1 minute. Skill ship ready for upgrade. Engaging the enemy.
Zombies incoming.
Watch out, he's down. Enemy eliminated.
Engage. Engaging the enemies.
Wih, nak joko ni.
Thanks.
Sila ambil weapon aku.
Adrenaline shot now. Using first aid kit now.
Weh, ada step.
Close in.
Ada step atau bukit.
Enemies near. The airdrop is coming.
Chip terminal is almost
Dapat
ready.
revive dah.
Using
Weapon dia kat mana?
adrenaline shot now.
Weapon orang tu. Enemy punya. Keren.
The safe zone is collapsing. Down to the last 5 teams.
Tu dia. Orang lagi.
Chip terminal is almost ready.
Kenapa tak dapat baling?
The safe zone is collapsing.
Naik skop aku tak dapat buka. Bagus lah skop ni. Berapa orang lagi? Kenapa tak perang tadi? Okay.
waited. It waited until it didn't. And then the real horror began. I let out a sigh of relief. The story sounded so promising that I knew it couldn't have ended there. It wasn't possible. Not if this truly was the Callous Man. I clear my throat. What happened after it walked into the living area? Rachel hisses at me that we should run, Amanda says. I remind her that her ankle's messed up. She had barely limped into the bedroom. How far does she think she's going to get in the woods, over uneven ground that's slick with rain? She tells me that if we stay here, we're both going to die. Amanda shivers. I know she's right, I know it, but I can't bring myself to leave. It feels like the tent's the only thing keeping that thing away from us. Like as long as the canvas is between us, it can't see us and we can't see it. It doesn't exist. It takes everything I have not to roll my eyes. Still, I flip a page on the clipboard and keep a neutral expression. Her perspective is not unlike a child's. People often approach terror with irrational and sometimes nonsensical methods of survival. Of course, there's nothing magical about her tent. There's nothing about it that will save their lives. Continue, I say. It starts with a creak of the floorboard. We hear it walking again, but it's not coming towards us. It's pacing back and forth out there in the living area, and it's snickering faster than before. Soon, the snickering gets heavier, violent. It starts grunting and then growling. She takes a breath and chokes back a sob. Tears race down her cheeks and her eyes are alight with terror. And then it goes silent. No movement, no grunting, no weird snickering. Just the thunder outside, the howling wind, and they decided to move on. And what? I press. She meets my gaze with her own, and a hopeless horror swims in her eyes. And then the entire cabin shakes. Footsteps pound on the floor. I see two crooked, broken antlers piercing through the canvas. That monster's throwing us around, bucking around in a painful heap. Rachel's scrambling over me, holding the lantern in her hand, and in the madness of it all, I see her make a break toward the window. As she does, the light passes over that monster. Amanda chokes back tears and sniffles. I'm sorry, she says. I need 1 second.
Wait.
Of course. I reach into my jacket pocket and retrieve a set of tissues. I pass them to her. Here, blow your nose.
Well played.
She does, and when she's finished, both of us sit in silence for a moment. Her bottom lip quivers. It must have been 8 feet tall. It was crouched over, a humanoid, except its chest was covered in fur and its legs were scaly, like a bird's. It had a long tangle of black hair and its antlers jutted out from its eye sockets. I mark the details down in excitement. Yes, good. It's a near perfect description. It's missing only a few key things. The antlers, I press. Can you describe them? They were crooked,
Well played.
she says slowly. They came out at odd angles, both different, and around them was a halo of eyes, tiny black ones. She closes her own eyes and swallows. I almost missed them, except they all blinked in unison, and I remember thinking it was the most terrifying thing I had ever seen. The fact that all of them blinked, I ask. No, the fact that all of them were looking at me. Did it attack you? I have to know. The defining characteristic of the Callous Man is his method of attack. If she nails it, then I've got her. I've got my Link, and I've got him. She shakes her head. No, I thought he might. But then Rachel makes a racket. She's throwing herself up and onto the window ledge, and then she falls over the other side. The creature turns towards her, snickers, and launches itself at the window.
Well played.
It seems like it should be too big to fit, whatever it is, but it isn't. It's like a snake. The way its body contorts to fit itself into the window frame. It perches there, and I see at the bottom of its scaly feet are these thick claws, and the hands it uses to grip the window have thin, impossibly long fingers. It drums them on the wall before it launches itself after Rachel. My pen races across the form, filling in details and circling boxes as the information presents itself. This is very good. I've waited my entire life for this moment. I sit there for a second, in too much shock to move, and then I realize that my friend is out there being chased by some monster. I get to my feet and turn my phone's light on, and in the distance, through the rain and swaying trees, I can see Rachel's light bobbing in the darkness. I call out to her. I shout her name, but she either doesn't hear me or she doesn't care. I scan the area for the monster, but I don't see a thing. I lean out the window, looking around the cabin, using my phone's light to illuminate as much as I can. But it's not there. The monster's vanished. I'm surprised you didn't take your opportunity and run, I say. The creature was clearly more interested in Rachel.
Attack the turtle.
Amanda glares at me. There's a stubborn defiance in her eyes, and I have to remind myself that most humans have a perverse obsession with self-sacrifice. Maybe it's the Hollywood brainwashing. Maybe it's the fact that they just haven't suffered enough, but they just can't get enough of it. Before she even speaks,
Well played.
I see it in her too. I couldn't leave her, Amanda snaps.
Wait.
I was the one who had dragged her out there on that hike. I was the one who suggested we follow that stupid, overgrown trail. I was the one who refused to use my locator beacon before it was too late. All of it was my fault. If I walked away from her then, I could never forgive myself. Her voice breaks. I still can't. Time to get a move on. You went after her then? Yeah. I clambered through the window and took off, following her light as best as I could. I had the bear mace in one hand and my phone in the other. The light from my phone wasn't much, but it was enough to keep me from tripping on roots or running into trees. I kept calling Rachel's name, kept telling her I was coming. She can't have gotten far with a twisted ankle, I say. But then again, adrenaline can do incredible things. Amanda shakes her head. She wasn't moving that fast, at least compared to me. I was gaining on her. I could just barely see her silhouette ahead of me, and the LED lantern bobbing up and down as she limped away. And then the light drops. Rachel's silhouette vanishes, and I hear her scream. I double over, running with everything I have. My lungs are burning and my feet are slipping on the mud, but I don't care. I'm not thinking anymore. I'm acting on pure instinct. And my instincts are telling me that if I don't get to Rachel soon, that creature is going to kill her. The words stop. Amanda's body trembles and she breaks down. She can't hold it in anymore. The torrent falls out of her, and her face gets ugly as she sobs into her hands. It doesn't take long before her palms are glistening with wetness, but to the girl's credit, she forces herself to keep going. She doesn't quit. Rachel's screams stop. I can't see anything really. The lantern's on its side far ahead of me, and I can just barely make out a shape in the darkness. It's the sound that still haunts me though. I think it always will. What sound? This wet, tearing sound, like skin being torn. and blood splattering the ground. It's followed by a dull crunch, and then I hear slurping, swallowing. I charge forward, and I'm basically just adrenaline at this point. I hold my phone up as I close the distance, and I see it. She takes a sobbing breath. I see the man with the antlers for eyes. He's crouched over Rachel's body, and one of her arms has been torn in half, barely dangling. I'm too stunned to move, too shocked at seeing my friend on the ground in front of me, being eaten by this thing.
Well played.
Her voice trembles, and she launches into another fit of tears. She brings a tissue to her nose and blows a thick wad of mucus into it, before throwing it unceremoniously into the warehouse floor. She wipes her face with the back of her sleeve. And then the thing rears back its head, and it tears what's left of Rachel's arm off, and it starts to chew it. It's more gruesome than anything I've ever seen. I don't think we're wired to deal with seeing that stuff as human beings, you know. Like nothing in my programming knew how to deal with that. Once it finished chewing, it swallows the arm and it opens its mouth again. Its bottom jaw falls all the way to the forest floor, its gaping maw large enough for a grown man to walk straight into it. It sits there in front of her for a second, and then that cacophony of screaming starts again, like 100 anguished voices stitched together. A flurry of human arms reach out of its mouth, clawing towards Rachel's body. They clutch at what's left of her torn limb, her hair, her jacket. They clutch at anything they can reach. And then they start dragging her into the monster's mouth. There it is. It's just as I remember. Amanda loudly blows into the tissue again. And then I hear Rachel whimper, and my blood goes cold. I realize the entire time I've been standing there watching this thing eat her. She's been alive. I was watching her get eaten alive. My mind goes blank. I point the bear mace and let loose a blast toward the monster, shouting at it to get away from her. It recoils, howling in that symphony of screams and shuffling back into the bushes. I take my chance and press the lantern into Rachel's hand. I tell her she needs to hold that for us, and she nods weakly. Her face has lost all of its color, and I know she's not long for this world. I get her good arm over my shoulder, and keeping a grip on the bear mace, begin putting some distance between us and that monster. She's groaning. She keeps saying my name, Mandy, over and over again.
Well played.
But I tell her to be quiet. She needs to save her energy, and I need to hear that thing. She listens to me.
Gather and ambush.
We don't get far before I hear its thunderous footfalls pound against the forest floor. It's running at us. I wheel around and Rachel's lantern illuminates the monster for only a split second, before I let loose another round of the maze. It snickers in pain and brings those long-fingered hands to its eyes. I don't wait around for it to recover. I keep going. I don't know where. All I know is that I need to get away from this thing, because it isn't going to stop until it finishes what it started. Again, I hear its footfalls pound in the dirt, and again, I wheel around and blast the monster. It shrieks in pain and shies away, but only a few moments later, it charges again. Amanda keels over and starts bawling. She grips her hair, and then she starts pulling on it so hard that I half expect her to tear a chunk from her scalp. I realize, she says, choking at the words between sobs. I realize Rachel's too heavy. I can't carry her. I can't get away from this thing because I can feel the can of mace is almost empty, and every time I hit it with the mace, it affects it less. She shakes her head. Her eyes are bloodshot, her cheeks tear-stained. She sniffles and wipes mucus onto her sleeve. I have to leave Rachel. I have to. If I don't, it's going to get us both. You understand, right? For the first time in her desperate recollection of the event, I do understand. Yes, I say. Life isn't easy. There aren't any real heroes, just people who pretend to be. You made a difficult choice, but a necessary one. Amanda stares at me. She stares at me for a long while she's searching my expression for something. Finally, she nods, slowly. Yeah, she says, wiping more snot onto her sleeve. Her voice evens out. The tears are no longer coming in torrents. I did what I had to do. I put her down, apologizing. I apologized over and over again, and I heard that thing coming, and I took off. I ran full tilt into the woods. Behind me, I heard that cacophony of screams. She swallows and her voice stutters. I listened to that familiar sound of tearing flesh, and then the dull crunch of snapping bone. I listened to the creature chew on Rachel. I tried not to. I tried to just focus on running, or the sound of the rain, or the thunder, or the wind, but I couldn't. All I could hear was my friend being eaten alive. Silence stretches between us. I clear my throat. Is that it? You got away, ran into the search and rescue team on your way down the mountain. No, she says, closing her eyes. There's a look of resigned regret in her features. I hear another sound. I hear a helicopter. A moment later, I catch sight of its searchlight beaming over the forest. I know this might be my only chance, so I start waving around my phone's light, trying to make as much of a scene as I can. And it works. The helicopter swings over, and it lowers a ladder with a rescue technician. It straps me to a line and asks me if I'm alone. I'm hysterical, shouting a mile a minute. I shriek that a monster attacked my friend, and I point towards Rachel's lantern, faintly visible in the distance. I tell him that it killed her. Amanda swallows, wiping at her eyes.
Well played.
He radios in to have me brought up and says that he'll go look for Rachel. I tell him not to. I know that if he does, he'll die too. It'll just kill him like it killed her. But over the wind and rain, he either doesn't hear me or he doesn't care. I'm pulled into the helicopter, and a few minutes later, I hear the man's voice over the radio. It's desperate, full of grief. He says that he needs a stretcher down there. He says he found the other woman, and that she's still alive. Have you spoken to Rachel since? I ask quietly. She shakes her head. No, she's in a coma. Both of her arms are missing. The wounds are infected and she's developed serious pneumonia. Doctors aren't sure if she's going to make it. She brings a hand to her mouth and chokes back a sob. Her eyes are wide and her body quakes. I left her there to die. If I had just stayed with her a couple of minutes longer, then the rescue chopper would have found both of us. It would have scared that freaking thing away, and Rachel would still be gravely injured. I finish. You can't blame yourself. You didn't know the chopper was around the corner. All that you knew was something wanted to kill you, and it was winning the battle for your life. Her shoulders rack with silent sobs. I could have stayed with her. She breaks down all over again, and this time I give her all the time she needs. I've scarcely seen somebody so grief-stricken in all my years of doing this, and it's almost as bizarre to me as the anomalies I've spent my life hunting. To hate yourself for something as simple as wanting to live, it's inhuman. I'm sorry, she says finally. That's everything. Can I go now? I lean back in my chair, frowning. It's not that I don't empathize with her, but such messy reactions only serve to get in the way of actually fixing problems. In her case, getting revenge for Rachel. She stands up, sniffling, and then answers her own question. I'm gonna go. Wait, I say. She stops in her tracks. What? Can you take me there? She stares at me with red, puffy eyes. Her face is a mask of confusion, disbelief. Excuse me? The cabin, I mean. I lean forward in my chair. Can you take me to the Callous Man? I've never been a fan of the woods. Call it a bad childhood experience. Call it being an out-of-shape a-hole. I'm even less of a fan when I'm stuck hiking through them for work. And yet it seems like work has a sick sense of humor. Because I find myself in these fortresses of sticks more often than I would like, which for the record is never. Well, except for today. It's a long time before we reach the cabin. The girl said that it took her and her friend 8 hours. Well, it takes us 12. My best days are behind me, unfortunately. But luckily, I don't need to be very fit for what I'm about to do. I still don't understand why you couldn't have just followed the map, Amanda says. I told you exactly how to... Because, I say, still breathless from the hike. This cabin doesn't exist on a map. You can point it out to me all you want on your iPhone, but unless you're right beside me, I'll never see it. It's just the way the Callous Man works. She narrows her eyes at me. You keep saying that name. Why do you call him the Callous Man? I pull open the door to the cabin, and instantly, it smells like crap and dead animals. Great. I call him the Callous Man, I say, strolling across the creaky floorboards. Because that's his name. It's the name the first person that's ever encountered him coined him with, and so it is the name with which I refer to him. The first person? Yeah, I say, stepping into the bedroom. Me. The floor is a mess, covered in what's left of Amanda's tent. A small device lays a few feet away, and I figure it's probably her locator beacon. Hold on, she says, appearing in the doorway behind me. You're the first person who saw the creature, the Callous Man. I nod, bending down and picking up one of the shattered photo frames she had mentioned. Dusting it off, I hold it up to her. This is my grandpa and I, showing off our rifles before going deer hunting. She looks shocked, stunned. Her eyes gaze at the picture and then back at me. On second glance, you two really do share a resemblance. You and he look so much alike. Yeah, I suppose we do. I tossed the frame onto the ground. You lived here? Visited. My grandpa lived here. What the hell? She says, her voice trailing off. This whole thing feels so bizarre. It has to be a nightmare. It can't be real. I flipped the water bottle full of black grime in my hands, catching it with a smile. You're preaching to the choir, lady. If I had to guess, I probably hope that I wake up from this even more than you do. Unlike you, she says with a glare, I don't have any secret agent training or whatever. Unlike me, you've got my gun. The only training you need is to point and shoot, and to not hit me with the bullets. She taps on a revolver, strapped to her thigh. It was the sole condition of her joining me on this little woodland excursion, that she gets to be the one who carries the gun. I told her that that's fine, with one stipulation. Remember, I say, don't touch that thing unless the Callous Man's already pulling you into his big mouth. I don't need you shooting me before I finish my business. What if he's attacking you? She asks. I'll deal with it. You'll deal with an 8-foot-tall monster with nothing but your bare hands. The water bottle crinkles in my grip. Just trust me on this. I'm a professional. I place my hand on the windowsill and look out over the clearing, out past the tree line. The sun's turned a golden red. Soon it'll be night. Nervous? I ask her. What do you think? She says. You better be as good as you say you are. The way she moves, the way she speaks, and the way she keeps touching the revolver on her thigh tell me everything that I need to know. She's terrified. Relax, I say. Save the anxiety for when our dear friend shows up. I chuckle at my joke, but it goes clear over her head. She pulls one of the chairs from the living area into the bedroom with me. She sits down on it, rigid and straight. I'm almost proud of her. Sure, she was only willing to accompany me with a magnum strapped to her thigh, but she still chose to do it. She chose to get revenge for what this thing did to her, and what it did to her friend. Almost there, I mutter. My eyes follow the sun as it slips behind the tree line. Shadows stretch out, engulfing the cabin in thin strips of darkness. He'll be here soon. Seconds pass and then minutes, and then things begin to change. It starts with a crow taking flight, and I already know that he's coming. I can feel him. A family of rabbits follow, bounding through the clearing. Soon, the entire forest is fleeing past us, far away from the callous man and the death that he represents. I pop a piece of spearmint gum and start chewing. It helps me focus. You ready? Why? She says, shooting up from the chair. Is he here? Does it make a difference? You're either ready or you're not. She scowls at me, but her body relaxes. I'm ready. Are you sure that you can kill him? A mad mixture of impatience and nervousness flutters in my stomach. I toy with the idea of lying. It would put her at ease. But then I decide that it doesn't matter anymore. Both of us are in too deep. No. No. She repeats incredulously. She rises from her chair, rounding on me. You said you were a professional. I am. You've told me that you've dealt with 100 different monsters. I have. Her mouth opens, but no words come out. She stares at me with something between stunned disbelief and absolute loathing. She thinks that I've signed her death warrants. I'm not going to lie to you, I say. I've dealt with a lot of creatures, some bad, some worse. I know this job inside and out, and I don't plan on dying today. But the callous man is different. How? I catch myself. We're on the precipice, and there's no going back. But there's still words that can upset the operation. I exercise some tact. He's powerful. He can distort this world and manipulate dimensions. It's why I need you here. It's why I needed your link. He chose you. The callous man gave you the key to his world, and only you. But he never said you couldn't bring visitors. She shakes her head. She's trying to piece it together. Bless her heart, she's trying her best. But there's not enough pieces to make sense of it. And that's intentional. It's by design. I need her obedient, not unruly. Everything hinges on her cooperation. I don't understand. Why did he choose me? The sun finishes its descent, its red-orange rays fading to darkness. I flick my flashlight on, holding it up to the window and watching the clearing with bated breath. The callous man is coming. He chose you because of the life you live, I explain. The values you represent. It means something to him. Values that I represent? What, like honesty and integrity? She snorts like it's a joke. What could they mean to a monster like that? I smirk. They mean you taste delicious. The night is still, silent, just as she earlier described. There's no sounds of life, except this time, there's no storm either. It's a cloudless sky, without so much as a breeze, and I can almost hear Amanda's heartbeat. Haha, she says sarcastically. She's close enough behind me now that I can feel their breath on my neck. She really is terrified. What do those values actually mean to it? To him, I correct. Believe it or not, that monster really is a man. When you become as powerful as he is though, food stops meaning what it means to you and I. It's less about calories and more about filling a void. It's trying to supplement its diet with concepts, ideas that it's missing. Why? To become better, to cure itself. There's a movement in the clearing, and my breath catches as I see it. A set of crooked antlers. They rise from the bramble, soon revealing a face covered by matted black hair, one with a tiny snout and a halo of dark, beady eyes. The dots glimmer in the beam of my flashlight. It wants to stop being a monster, she asks, her voice thick with disbelief. It's eating people to save itself. Shh, I hiss. My eyes are wide, and my mouth is split into the largest grin I've worn in years. He's here. My sensor tense up behind me, but to her credit, she doesn't unholster the revolver on her thigh. She keeps her cool. I grip the water bottle tighter, reaching a hand to its cap. No. I pull my hand away, reminding myself that I need to keep my cool too. It's still too soon. The callous man can still escape, fade away. I need him committed. At the edge of the clearing, the man rises to his full height. I can see clearly now his dark fur chest, and his long, thin fingers resting on the ground. His bird-like legs begin a slow march forward, their claws digging at the loamy earth. He's coming, I say, taking a step back. Stay behind me, directly behind me. She doesn't speak, but I know she's nodding. I hear her feet creak in the floorboards in concert with my own. My fingers play at the cap of the water bottle. Everything comes down to this. 40 years of horror and misery have led me to this moment. A snickering sound pierces the air. The man's moving faster now, each footstep coming at the pace of a light jog. There's hardly any time left, but still, I wait. He's coming. Amanda hisses from behind me. She's panicking. Her hand clutches at my shoulder and I grunt, shaking her off. Don't, I tell her. Relax. We're almost done here. My heart races. Seeing the monster again after all these years is dredging up old memories, and the little boy threatens to take hold inside of me. My palms are thick with sweat. It doubles over, sprinting on all fours. Its armada of eyes connect with my own, while its crooked antlers sway in concert with its powerful body. Clouds of earth burst out from beneath it, its long fingers tearing at the ground with each stride. It snickers. It leaps at the window. For a moment, time seems to stop. I stare transfixed at the creature I used to know so well. Its horrifying, inhuman face gazes back at me, and inside of it, I see an insatiable hunger, a need to feed. My body freezes. My blood goes cold. Terror grips me as its fingers reach outward, passing through the window while its vocal cords glitter in anticipation. It wants me. I lunge to the side. It collides with Amanda, its antlers piercing her stomach and showering the bedroom in blood. Her body crashes against the wall with a sickening crunch and lays there in a broken, whimpering heap. I stay as quiet as I can. The callous man shakes his tangle of black hair and looks around, reorienting himself, first to me and then to her. and then back to me.
Aku pakai estes tadi kan.
Crap.
Tengah.
My fingers begin untwisting the cap of the water bottle.
Jadi aku pakai estes kan.
It's too soon.
Aku nak
I need
support
him
ni,
distracted.
Tamar. Kena buat.
I need him feeding and committed. But I don't think I have an option anymore.
Boleh jadi masuk tower enemy.
It steps towards me.
Bukan aku.
The floor groans. My mouth
Cepat, Amar.
feels dry. My
Aku
limbs
jadi
twitchy.
teragak-agak nak tolong.
Fear takes root in my chest, and the little boy inside threatens to take hold. No, I have to hang on.
2 kali
I
Mar.
open the water bottle, and my mouth begins stuttering the
2
words.
kali ke 3 kali.
Thu Val Nolar.
Boleh datang, Mar.
The callous man lowers himself. His back
Tak tukar
arches,
lagi kat singkat.
and his tiny snout begins to open, growing larger and larger. Screams of 100 souls echo from the void inside of him, their arms reaching toward me,
Masa banyak orang. Ada
desperate
orang
to draw
ada orang
another
dekat.
into their nightmare. Gal Nuj Alza. I continue the words, but there's no time.
Kepala tahu.
They're so close. He's so close.
Kepala tahu.
I press myself as far against the corner as I can,
Nak mati.
but still, I feel their cold grip on my leg.
Dari
They pull.
Selain
They're
datang.
strong.
Aku ada
My
ulti
balance
balik.
goes out from under me, and I fall on my butt.
Aku ada ulti lagi.
Thust Val Kolna. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. She held the values that he needed. Her, not me.
Zilong.
I keep speaking the incantation. I keep moving my lips, but now my body's acting on instinct, on learned behavior.
Kenapa dia orang takut dengan aku?
I can't so much as think as I slip further and further into the abyssal darkness of the callous man's jaws.
Cap kau.
I keep speaking the words,
Mar, bukan kau
but
ada
my
skill
voice
tu
is
kemarin
drowned
kat
by
sekolah,
the
orang
pleas
bagi
of the
kat
dead,
sekolah.
screaming, howling, begging.
Biasalah aku
The
sama
incantation
ada
is all I have left.
bikin baju sekolah.
It's not enough. It's taking too long.
Cak.
A deafening bang rings out, interrupting the chorus of screaming souls. The callous man recoils, its jaw sliding across the floor in its body, writhing in agony. It stumbles to the side, and then 2 more gunshots pierce the night. It falls to its knees. I can see behind him now. I can see Amanda's bloody, mangled heap. One of her legs is snapped backwards, and her white shirt is torn at her stomach, with pieces of her falling out of the hole.
Aku ada.
Blood spills from her mouth like a fountain,
Ui.
and in her trembling hands, she holds the revolver. Thank you, I breathe, rising to my feet on shaky legs. Thank you, Aman. Another blast of the handgun, and this time, my ears are ringing like church bells. I stumble to the side, and in the dim light of the lantern, I see a bullet hole in the wall beside me. I barely have time to look back at her before agony rips through my thigh, and I collapse onto the bedroom floor.
Lari.
My hands clutch the wound instinctively. I don't need to look at it to feel the warm wetness of blood seeping through my fingers.
Jadi ada match ke?
I gaze up at her, and she steadies the magnum at me.
Enak.
I was so close. So close.
Aku boleh hitam
40 years of this, and I'm undone by a blogger. Do it,
Benar je pun.
I growl. Death by a bullet isn't a bad way to go, all things
Aku
considered.
lupa beli ni.
Do it before he takes both of us.
Nak slow.
She lowers the revolver, and tears fall from her eyes. She's choking on a word, but all that's coming out is a torrent of blood.
Man,
It's
ada
fine.
zilong.
I know what she wants to say.
Dia dah ambil bau.
I did it because it was the only way. I explained through gritted teeth.
Ramai-ramai buat apa?
One of us always has to die. But if it was me, then it meant we both did. Her body's twitching in shock. She's still moving her mouth, but it's just blood now. No words, only blood. Her face is pale and glassy-eyed, but I only see it for another moment before the callous man begins to rise. He's snickering again, but it's violent, angry. His eyes gaze at me. The antlers are casting twisted shadows in the light of my lantern, and it's making him seem even more unnatural, more inhuman.
Tak apa kena.
He turns away from me. He turns towards Amanda.
Nak lawan
Felguz Ria, I
geng
whisper.
kita tu barrel.
Morath Gresham. His footsteps groan on the rotting cabin floorboards. I don't see Amanda,
Benda saya.
but I hear the gurgle of blood. I hear the desperate shuffle of her body, pushing itself against the wall. I hear a gunshot ring out, and then another. The footsteps march forward,
Bunyi udang.
and so does my incantation.
Bunyi udah sakit.
The water bottle's shaking in my grip now, the grimy fluid swirling in a murky maelstrom. Greya nu Yulia.
Kata aku scan dia.
Another shot.
Corona.
Thal ra dua, ria tha. A cacophony of screams.
Sakit bro di
Set
jauh dah.
kill ona. Box loa.
Depan kau.
Amanda lets loose on the handgun twice
Gila aku
more,
depan.
and then the firearm clicks impotently. She had burned through every round that it has.
Dapat budak.
It wasn't enough. It
Sabar.
never could be. My lips keep moving even as I hear her body being dragged across the floor. The ancient language flows out of me, and I'm deaf to the sounds of her flesh being ripped and torn, her limb being devoured inch by inch. She needs to hang on. Her role in this isn't over yet. I speak the final words. Set rindas.
Pelman.
The water bottle jolts from my grip. The murky fluid inside exploding into a dark cloud,
Aku nak
twisting
ambil
around the
body,
room
dia
like a
budak
tornado
sakit.
of smoke.
Aku nak tanya Pelman.
I hear these screaming falter, and then I hear the callous man lurch around, snickering in confusion.
Jap.
I hear Amanda groan.
Double kill.
She's a fighter. Good. It takes the cloud only a handful of seconds to coalesce into the greatest monster I've ever seen. But in that moment, it feels like a lifetime.
Dipegah babi.
Its form snaps and cracks with bolts of electricity. Its 12 eyes glow in impossible blue.
Lambat dah tadi.
Upon its 6 muscled arms are heavy chains, linking to a choker on its neck, and its face roars in fury. This time I'll have your soul, little man. I'll enjoy it over a glass of your misery.
Bit of
I let a grin slip across my lips. For the first time since the callous man appeared, I feel my sense of humor returning. I'm sorry to disappoint, Dragar, but I summon you by means of an offering.
Tolong.
The genie's brows furrow and his mouth opens to reveal a row of jagged teeth.
Bila laju.
I see no living humans here, save for one. He's smiling. He reaches an arm out to grab me,
Support
but as
yang
soon as his
membakar.
fingers brush my throat, they hiss and steam. He recoils, snarling. She's your offering, I say, pointing past the callous man to Amanda's mangled body. Now obey my command. A cacophony of screams interrupt us. The callous man's jaws have opened, and once more 100 arms reach from the maw,
Oh, pendeknya.
this time toward the newcomer. They grasp the genie, phasing through the gaseous image. Dragar scowls, his voice dropping to a low growl. Very well. The words are spoken. A soul for a soul. His body splits in two, circumventing the callous man and reforming in front of Amanda. She's nearly dead. She's confused. She doesn't understand what's happening.
Dia boleh platforming kat sini.
I've given her a mercy.
Lam.
Dragar will treat her soul better than the callous man ever would.
Oh, nak boleh farming.
The genie's hand reaches out to touch her, and in the next instant, her body is gone. Only the bloodstains remain. The callous man looks back to me, its jaw scraping along the floor. It recognizes there's nothing in the genie to consume. It wants what's inside of me, though.
Tiba buka ulti.
It wants the memories of its humanity. It wants revenge. It takes a heavy step toward me, and then another. The screams are deafening, but I know I don't need my voice to be heard. A command is a command.
Dia buat kerja kat atas.
For her soul,
Aku nak ambil sini.
I want his. The pale hands reach out from the abyssal maw, grasping my legs, and I let them. My body falls to the floor. It inches towards the jaws of the beast, toward damnation. And then light fills the room, and the cabin shakes with the low bass of eternity itself. The screaming fades to a whimper. Then, after a loud pop,
Wait.
it's gone.
Aku tak siap.
Everything's gone.
Waktu dah tak bertambah.
The callous man, the cabin.
Jaga sabar.
I'm alone, laying in a dark field. My lantern illuminating a clearing of grass, with tall trees surrounding it. My thigh aches, my mouth is parched, and my conscience is in tatters.
Necklace nak counter
But
tu
I'm
ni,
alive.
Oracle.
I'm always alive.
Necklace nak counter necklace.
Soon, you will fulfill our contract, says a hissing voice, scraping along my inner ear. It's everywhere and nowhere. I've taken 93 souls for you. Only 7 more to go. Yeah, I've heard it before. I say with a groan. Now, hand over my soul. There's a swirl of smoke and the frowning genie appears before me. He snaps a finger on one of his 6 arms and produces a vial filled with murky purple fluid. The man never deserved this, he says. He was your own blood. Don't lecture me, I say, reaching for the vial. You and I both know he was never supposed to turn into that. The genie pulls back, gazing at the vial. What is meant to be and what comes to pass are 2 different things. You shield yourself from the delusion of intention. He encircles me with a snaking ribbon of smoke, his face materializing near my ear. You forced that destiny on the man. He had no desire to participate in your war. Yeah, well, none of us do. And yet it's coming anyway. Something takes a seat in my gut. Regret, maybe. Remorse. It's an ugly feeling. Whatever it is. I blame it on the woman. Why didn't she just kill me? No, I think to myself. Shake it off. I've got more important things to worry about. The vial. I growl, holding my hand out. I think I may have miscalculated. Dragar mutters, staring at the vial with curiosity. A soul for a soul, such as the terms of our contract. And yet, I swallow and it feels like sandpaper. When's the last time I had something to drink? You've got your soul, now give me mine. My voice cracks. Crap, my voice cracks. The genie's 12 eyes swivel their gaze to me. A smile slips across his lips. When he speaks, his voice is quiet, unsettling. I count over 100 souls in this vial. My heart slams against my ribcage. No, that's not fair, I shout, trying to rise to my feet.
Follow dia tapi dia masih follow kita. Apa? Kita jarang-jarang on kan.
But my thigh screams in pain and I fall back to earth. I only asked for his soul. I never asked for the souls he devoured. And yet, there's still a part of him. Please, it can't end here. Be reasonable. Reasonable. The genie roars, and his form becomes massive. Lightning sparks around him, and the wind whips into a gale threatening to unseat me from the ground. You chained me to this earth for decades, turned me into a common reaper for your own ends, and you confined me to a water bottle. You speak of reason to me. I did what I had to do. I bellow. A war is coming, and we need these souls. We need an army. Your petty war means nothing to me. Dragar points a long finger toward me, and a red aura swirls around it. Sparks crackle at its tip. And then slowly, reluctantly, he curls it back into a fist. I am, however, a reasonable being. My breath hitches in my chest as I hang on the monster's every word. You have broken the terms of our contract, but I have also willingly fulfilled your wish. For that, I will give you a compromise, little human. Compromise? That's good, it's better than nothing. What? Dragar's eyes glint. 1 month. 1 month. Settle your affairs. Prepare for your war. 1 month from now, I'll take the soul you've dreamed of for decades. I'll spend the next century picking you out of my teeth. I sigh, falling back onto the grass. It's better than I could expect, all things considered. I'm surprised that cosmic a-hole didn't just scoop me up right then and there. Frickin' fine print. Fine, I say. Can you get me out of here? He smirks, turning into formless smoke. A soul for a soul. No more, no less.
Satu diamond je lah.
He begins swirling like a mad tornado of
Satu diamond je lah
shadow,
pakai.
howling and roaring, and a moment
Mana?
later he's gone, vacuums back into the water bottle.
Apa nama dia?
Well, looks like I'm finding my own way down. Once more, I try to rise to my feet, and once more, I wince in pain and fall to the earth. Dang,
Nak beli skin.
the revolver did good work on my thigh. No, she did. The woman tugs at my thoughts. Her resolve, her strength, her blog. She could tell the story. Amanda Haynes. She's gone now, but there's still this story that needs to be told. And I'm running out of time to tell it. I spot a mess in the corner of my eye.
Tan banyak.
A pile of canvas, torn and bloody, with tent poles poking out. That should do. I crawl toward it. And a moment later, I find what I'm looking for. A black device laying a few feet away, just like it had been in the cabin. The beacon. I reach out and grab it, and click the button. It
Sakit
beeps.
aku.
Good.
Air begitu ni.
It beeps.
Wait.
You don't need me to tell you that the search team located me. And you don't need me to tell you that they had a lot of questions,
Babi lah dia curi.
but that the facility stepped in and took care of it.
Air gila.
You also don't need me to tell you that I'll be walking with crutches for the rest of my short life.
Dah malas.
What you need me to tell you is why I'm posting this.
Bangga support.
You need to know why I'm telling you this story,
Nak beli
and
apa?
why I need you to tell it to others. Your friends, your family,
Nak beli apa?
everybody.
Omlet.
The reality is, a war is coming.
Biasa, biasa.
It's a war that humanity isn't outfitted for, but we're doing the best we can. Strictly speaking,
Betul.
everything I just said is classified, and yet it's critical this information be spread far and wide. What's coming for us can't be stopped by missiles and guns. It can't be overcome by men and women.
Curi tadi.
It has to be through other means, legendary means.
Wait.
The folks at the top don't want to admit that.
Ada hal
They don't want to sow chaos and uncertainty and admit our hourglass is dangerously low on sand, but it is,
tak payah.
and chaos is coming one way or another. We're doing what we can at the facility, but it isn't enough, not even close. They would skin me alive for posting this, but my time's already up, so who cares? I'm asking you, all of you,
Hebat dia kata.
if you see a creature that defies explanation, or a certain something that goes a bump in the night,
Tak
share your experience, make it known.
Entah.
Against the eldritch abominations coming our way, those monsters might be our only chance.
Lima hantu.
And honestly,
Tengok.
we need all the help we can get.
Ini. Ayo. Papale, 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 papale.
Attack the turtle.
Ah, ni nak lapor untuk ujar.
Oh, papale, 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 papale.
Lapor
Dia tak
tak ada.
ada.
Ah, tu.
Ada. Macam tu.
Tak ada pusing.
Attack the
Tak
turtle.
sampai pula. Aku tak
It was cold every day.
Bangat.
Though, I assume that's the case whenever you spend every day in a research facility in the Arctic. They told us we were here to record the ice sheets' sizes as they shrank. But I'm not entirely sure why.
Tu recall apa tu?
I've seen the Facebook feeds of all the doulards in
Recall hero.
Philistines. They don't believe us.
Yang star ni tak ada.
Social policy doesn't
Tak ada.
shift to meet us and our findings.
Aku faham tak?
No one cares.
Recall mar, recall.
Still, there we were, freezing our respective genitals off in ridiculously low temperatures.
Buah
And that's alright, Karen. Please finish your latte and tell me exactly how it is. You know better than us. Go on, seriously.
Wait.
I think it's a bit funny that we were sent up here on federal grants from the good old USA. You may not believe our findings, but you sure are paying for them. So, there it is. That's not all we were up there for, though. It seems that was what we were doing at first, but as we began to record crazy seismic activity, our focus shifted to that instead. Initially, it seemed as though it was just periphery nonsense that we were picking up on our instruments, but it continued. The government suits came in and we worked under the mushroom style of management the US government enjoys implementing most. Feed your employees crap and keep them in the dark. We were already working on the government dime, so not much changed. Everything just felt a lot more hush-hush. It had been at least a week since the last transmission, and the storm wasn't letting up anytime soon. We all knew that. The animals knew it too. The sled dogs became lethargic and whimpered as we checked in on them. They would pace and refuse to touch their kibble. Things got weird outside sometimes though, just the way that it goes. Sometimes you think you see things in the snow and then you turn back to look at it and it's nothing. But sometimes it is. I'm getting carried away with myself when I talk of such things. I apologize. The thing that gets me more than anything is the wild loneliness you feel. It's maddening some days, but I suppose that should have been something to be prepared for. I'm not so sure any amount of preparation would have done it though. You expect the loneliness, to be sure, but the thing you really don't expect is exactly how crazy your own mind goes in it. You know there won't be enough people to save the average human equivalent, but the worst is within you. It's enough to drive you up a wall. I am rambling though, so I'll get on with it. We were a team of 11 in the beginning, but during the shift rotation, we were left with 5. Me, that is, Andrew Warden, a junior researcher, Anthony Finkel, the lead, Jennifer Jones, another junior, Amber Darling. Not sure how someone ends up with a surname like that, and a helicopter pilot. Donovan Plant, a technical officer sent in after the pickup in seismic. He notably came from a military background, and it felt as though he was deeper in the government's pocket than anyone else. There we were, expecting another round of professionals to come in, and that dang storm came down on us almost like it knew what it was doing. The weather itself knew that we would be trapped up there, and we lost communication. But that didn't matter, as we knew they wouldn't bring the next batch of fresh-faced researchers with the storm the way it was. It never seemed to let up. A constant whistle blew across the metal panels that made up the front entrance of the facility. You could get further away from the noises of the storm if you delved deeper into the facility underground. It was warmer there too, and for a brief moment, maybe you could forget you were on top of the world in the middle of a blizzard. We hardly talked to one another, only congregating in the mess hall to eat together, normally in muttering silence. Mostly, I devoured books that I had already read, and the other team members were taken away in their own hobbies. The storm bugged most of our equipment out, so it wasn't as though we could get much work done beyond recording temperature and making sure the seismograph kept a steady reading. Anthony tended his bonsai, Amber knitted, Jennifer tended to the dogs, and Donovan kept his door shut and locked, so I couldn't really say what he did in there while the rest of us were filling our time. The first meaningful conversation I'd had in a long time was with Jones as we were peers. It was in the sterile mess hall, as I attempted to keep an eye on the open page of Metamorphosis, while also spooning hunks of chopped spaghetti into my mouth. I was doing a rather poor job of this, constantly dropping sauce into my lap. She slid into the seat across from me with a bowl, rubbing her hands together after removing her gloves. I couldn't help it. My interest was piqued. Why the gloves? I rumbled while closing the book and looking at her. Her cheeks were veiny red. Jones lifted her warm bowl with her hands, letting out a satisfying sigh. She peeked over the bowl at me. Have you been out lately? I leaned in. No, there's a storm out there, in case you've not noticed. I know. She set the bowl down. Still, I think you should go outside sometime. I swear there's something out there. She shuddered as she spooned the food into her mouth and sucked on her spoon absently. What are you talking about? I raised an eyebrow.
Mustahil tak kena.
She grinned and leaned in towards me. There are people out there. I swear it. You've got to go out there. I'll take you. You've got to see them.
Kena stun.
There's no one out
Kalau
there.
kakak ini.
I furrowed my brow at her, completely forgetting my book and setting it next to me on the bench. She pointed her spoon at me.
Masuk, masuk, masuk.
You sure about that?
Masuk.
You've been up there. I shook my head. I'll show you tomorrow.
Mana?
She took another mouthful from the bowl.
Dah kena lock.
Don't tell anyone.
20%.
Jones whispered this part and decided to continue her meal alone in a room.
Pilih bawah dulu.
As she left the canteen and disappeared down the hall, I watched her, baffled. What? I said. There weren't people out in the storm. What sort of asinine crap was that? I wrapped my fingertips across the tabletop and wondered whether Jones had a touch of the madness. That was a distinct possibility. It could creep up on any one of us at any time. Wandering around in a blizzard was a way for it to manifest. I took my bowl to the sink basin and washed it, leaving it on the rack to dry. After returning to my room, I tossed the book onto the metal bedside table and I lied in bed.
Sorry guys.
Even after clicking my light off, I couldn't sleep though. I paced for longer than I'd care to admit, thinking that I ought to turn Jones into Fink.
Legendary.
Fink would know what to do. He was a brilliant yet compassionate man. Would we quarantine her? I couldn't be sure. None of us knew when the next batch would show up. Call it curiosity,
Kalau
boredom.
kita pun kasihan.
Perhaps I too had been touched by the maddening effects that the place kept. I decided to meet with Jones in the morning and go out there. After making my decision, sleep came easier.
Bolt is not ready.
The following morning, I bundled in layers and crept past the others' rooms and then the canteen. I could hear clanking utensils as they ate their breakfast. Reaching the mouth of the facility, I found Jones at the sled dog pens, roughing the neck of a shabby-looking mutt with curly black and white fur. He looked around happily, wagging his tail. The storm picked up outside and he tucked his tail as the overhead fluorescent lights flickered. "It's okay, boy," said Jones, offering her hand, palm down. He brushed his face into it, and she gathered his head in both hands, scratching his jaw on either side. His tongue rolled back and forth. "So," I said, making my presence known.
Si
"People
Datuk
outside,
Mahathir nak masuk.
huh?" "That's right,"
Try back
she said.
tak payah biar dia.
"I saw them a few days ago."
Sikit.
Jones
Masuk,
lifted herself from her hunkered position and wiped her hands down on the front
Dia
of her
merajuk,
pants.
dia merajuk.
I thought for sure I was losing my mind, but they are out there. Humanoid figures. You mean humans? Humanoid figures don't exist. I corrected. Sure, humans. I saw them a few days ago and tried ignoring them, but every time I look out there, she motioned to the window near the facility's arched doorway.
Budak fighter. Sedap.
I couldn't see anything but thick snow whipping across the glass's surface in violent bouts. They were out there. The figures are the only thing I can't rationalize. That's impossible. Without a doubt, it's totally impossible, Jones said.
Tolong.
So, they're still out there. She shrugged. If you ask me, governmental experimentation. What? Hear me out. She put up her hands with a coy twinkle of her immaculate teeth.
Can heroes.
Probably I'm paranoid or something. Probably I'm totally wrong, alright? But I think this is some sort of localized blizzard. I think the government is testing out weaponized weather. That's what makes sense to me. Given the look in her eye, I could tell she was mostly joking. There was something like a hopeful glimmer there though, and I could tell the thought of something so sensational moved the gears of her imagination. That's illegal. I shook my head. Lots of things are illegal.
Betul semua pergi bawah.
When the government does something, it's not. I've seen your file. You've worked in the public sector long enough. So, I would say you know that better than anyone. Localized, weaponized weather, I said, holding my chin in, tugging at the thin beard, transpiring there.
Biar aku kaya sikit.
Letting the words dangle in the air, that way they would fully cement in my mind. That's insane. You're insane. She laughed heartily, flapping her gloves against her bundled tummy. I mean, probably. Doesn't change the fact that I've seen humanoid humans. Right. It doesn't change the fact that I've seen humans out there.
Dah ada keluar.
She paused to slip into her thick gloves. So, I tried going out to them yesterday, but no matter how far I went, I couldn't see their details. They look like black outlines in the snow. So, I need your help. I needed someone else to come with me. I don't want to get lost out in that storm. You want to get both of us lost in the storm. At least if that happens, I won't be lost by myself, right? This was a death wish. Without a doubt, I was sure of that. But why had I come up here? I knew why, and she knew why too. The talk of these strange figures out in the blizzard had me extremely interested. I moved across the white-dusted floor and wiped at the window near the door with my glove, scraping the frost off. I peered out, squinting my
Dia pakai
eyes.
sun pula ajak sun.
I waited for it. I waited for the humanoid figures to show themselves out there.
Equal in turns.
Nothing. I couldn't see anything out there in that storm but wild white wind. Just as I began to tell Jones that I intended to have breakfast with the others, I saw them standing out there, unmoving. There was maybe 2 or 3 of them, the vaguest outlines of people. Arms, legs, heads. No way. There was no way I should have been able to see anything in that. Unless the storm was localized somehow. And the reach of the blizzard didn't touch out past maybe 40 yards. 40 yards, listen to me. 40 yards in a blizzard that thick might as well have been a million. Jones came up on my shoulder.
Harit ni tu.
I see them too, huh? I jerked at her presence and took a step back from the window. Yeah, I see them.
Oh, Harit
Could be a simple case of pareidolia. I offered.
Tak nampak siap. Tu maki dia.
Could be several things. Pareidolia, cabin fever, polar
Suka
madness
merah dia,
specifically.
kau tak suka.
And believe me, I thought about all of that. The only thing that's supposed to be out there is the chopper.
Dan salah siapa?
I don't know about
Miam,
you,
miam,
but those don't look anything like a chopper to me. I studied Jones's face and saw she was on point. Her brow was rigid, and her eyes were unmoving. She was determined. Re-pulling her hair into a tighter bun, she donned a thick woven cap. Ready? Gosh dang it. I slapped my gloves against my hands, but eventually slid into them.
Wait.
She grabbed the door handle as I was still placing the goggles over my face. Remember to stay close. The worst thing we can do is lose each other out there. She paused. I set up a line yesterday. It goes out to maybe 20 or 30 meters. It was difficult alone. Twisting the door's big flat metal handle with the full weight of her body, it came swinging in and I was immediately met with the stiff wind of the blizzard. Even in my layers, I knew it was going to be a miserable excursion. I barreled into the wind with my shoulder, feeling the chill cut straight through me.
Dah.
Gritting my teeth, I reached out with a stiff arm, searching the blind white air for the lady that she had mentioned. It was a panicked eternity that I was reaching out with my gloved fingers, before I felt them wrap around the hard metal of a waist-high post.
Apa boleh buat,
Running the
Mar?
length of the guidepost, I found the line and took it in both hands. This was it. If I let go and scrambled into the whipping snow, I'd be lost forever. Behind, I felt the searching arms of Jones. She was flailing around, keeping one hand on the line.
Tengah menaik.
I grabbed a hold of her with the other, leading her hand to it.
Woi.
And quickly, I grasped onto the line again, terrified. It's a similar feeling of drowning. Total hopelessness all around you. I shimmied my feet along, creating a small path in the heavy snow. Why did I have to go first?
Skin
I
trial
felt my
ni
neck
bang.
against the wind, beating against my frayed hood as I came to the end of the line and peered out into the storm.
Trial je.
Holding one hand cupped around my face to help me see.
Skin trial je.
They were the figures. Strong, unmoving. They must have been statues. That was the only explanation. Something was moving us along out there in that storm. Something wanted us out there. Something wanted us to find these things. I felt Jones bump into my back and grab my shoulder, looking past me. There, you can see them a little clearer now. She yelled directly into my ear. Even with the minimal space between us, I could scarcely hear her over the scream of the wind.
Tak boleh, aku dah tersepak secara.
Are they statues? I asked. They look like it. It's clearer out today.
Pelik je lah. Aku
I'm going to go check them out.
aku dah lock tadi.
Hold on to
Ni
the
yang
end of the
tak
line
boleh
and
ke?
keep me in sight. If
Kita
you lose
dapat
me,
salju
get
tak?
help. I let go of her and staggered into the snow before she could protest.
Jadi pro lah.
Looking back even now, I wonder what was wrong with me.
Ni bukan salah
No
aku,
one
ni
goes out there
bangang
like
ni.
that alone.
Berkali
That's a surefire way to kill yourself.
Bangang punya.
I didn't care, I suppose. I was driven by a sense of adventure and an otherwise mind-numbing existence. The storm continuously pushed against me, and I fought it, watching my feet steadily.
Macam pandai.
I could already feel my muscles burning from the exertion, but I convinced myself that if I maintained my nerves and didn't lose my sense of direction while taking my steps carefully, I'd be fine. And that's when I bumped directly into one of the figures and almost set myself cartwheeling in the snow. I instead found myself on one knee,
Jadi kau tahu siapa yang nak makan.
leaning over the obscured form of a humanoid figure. It didn't move. It was frozen. I held on to the stiff leg of the figure and looked to my left and right. 3 other frozen figures to my left, 2 others to the right. And then there was the one that I was kneeling over.
Sakit je lah.
6 altogether.
Babi.
Humanoid forms of
Dia mati.
varying heights and builds. I felt a hand grab my shoulder hard, and I almost fell over in terror as I was sure that was one of the figures had come to life, and it was coming to get me. It was Jones.
Ni bagi makan
She had left the line. What are you doing? I screamed at her. Finkel's at the end of the line over there. She spit through the cold. He said to come and get you. Looks like the jig is
Ada orang
up.
buka mic, ada orang buka mic.
Could I
Ni
almost
tak
hear a
nak ni,
laugh
ada
in
orang buka
her
mic dah.
voice? Who
Kita
knows?
siapa yang buka mic?
I relaxed and took a moment to
Beliau,
regroup.
beliau.
Help
Dia
me.
buka mic.
What? She said. Help me. Get this thing's leg over there. I've got this one.
Kau maki sikit.
We set about the arduous task of dragging the frozen figure through the thick
Tak
snow,
cuy.
only circling around in confusion once. We saw Fickle at the end of the line, holding a light and waving to the ground. There! Screamed Jones.
Weh, kenapa
As
kau
we met
buka tembok?
Fickle, he called out gruffly,
Tak, supaya...
What the heck are you doing out here?
Babi.
Here, I said.
Ya dah mati lama
Help
dah
us get
tengok.
this thing in. It was hard to
Dia
tell.
takut, dia
I'm sure the
takut.
lead was shaking his head as he hunkered down and began aiding in our efforts to move the heavy statue-like figure.
Tak, sebenarnya tadi
Darling
belanja kat
slammed the
apa
door
ni.
shut and the wind outside was
Kita tak
muffled.
bersambung je.
I shed my hood and goggles and gloves, rubbing my hands together while blowing hot breath into them. I watched as Jones followed suit. A figure lay on the floor, stiff with both arms at its
Alah,
sides,
sembangan.
staring at the ceiling
Penat
blindly.
kan sembangan. Tengok mati.
It was ice.
Ada
It was an
kopi.
ice statue.
Thank you.
I looked around at the other
Lebih baik
faces of the
pandang
research
main je
team,
tau. Main
and they
COC
too were all
main-
momentarily intrigued by the statue.
Jangan main COC bodoh, rosak COC nanti.
Finkel tugged at
Oh,
his
dia
belt.
jangan.
Now why don't you tell me what you two were doing out there during a dang blizzard?
Sakit. Tak mesti ada
I looked
benda
at Jones and we locked eyes.
Jangan report aku.
Report kan lah,
We
report.
saw those things out there.
Benda
She
dah boleh
said.
report.
There are others out there. This isn't the only
Wow.
Teresa
one.
satu. Acah
Wild stuff
bobok
if you ask
Teresa
me.
babi tu.
And you thought you could just go on a little trek without letting the rest of us know, stammered Finkel, while stroking his thick, peppered beard. Have you lost your minds? Still shaking his head, he crossed the room and knelt to examine the ice statue. When he looked back at us, his expression had softened substantially. Alright. You see this thing out there, and go get it. What now? Jones shrugged and made the noise for, I don't know. This will be going into my folder, sir, said Donovan to Finkel. Finkel waved this off. I'm sure it will. Everything does, doesn't it? He lifted the light from his belt and shined it at these statues of bulbous, featureless face. This isn't made out of ice, he said calmly. It's coated with stuff. He sighed and wiped his dripping nose with a sniff. There's a person under there. God dang it. There's a person under there. He repeated his words. I stepped over to look at the figure. It was true. With him shining his light into the thing's face, I could just make out the two blue eyes, an open mouth, a nose. There was a human somewhere under all that, no doubt. Jesus, whispered Darling. Who is it? None of us could tell as the glass-like reflective quality of its form did not afford the distinction of specific features. Finkel investigated the body with his coarse, thick fingers. Never seen anything like this before. It looks like somebody poured water over them and kicked them out into the blizzard. God, look at this. The coating of ice is so thick. How does something like this happen? Mine and Jones' insubordination seemed forgotten, at least for the moment. I looked at her, but her eyes were transfixed on the statue. This wasn't the sort of thing she had been looking for. This was horrific. This was death. Who did that? What did that? We lifted the statue and carried it to the infirmary, laying it out on one of these sleek metal tables, surrounding it with heaters. Not wanting to watch the thing melt, I took myself to the canteen and settled into a corner with a warm butter biscuit. I hadn't noticed, but Jones had followed me, startling me from my thoughts as I looked over my sparse breakfast. You said you thought it was some sort of localized storm, I said. I don't know. It seemed like a neat fantasy. She toyed with her fingers on the table. I was bored, that's all. I didn't think those figures out there were even real. The idea of a top-secret governmental conspiracy got me excited, but I knew that was a tad far-fetched. Jones sighed. Of course it was. I was bored. Her voice had an apologetic tone. Plus, I had to have a reason to get you to come with me. It's alright, I assure her. It's a good thing we did what we did. There are frozen dead people out there, and at least 5 others. Darling joined us, sliding onto the bench table alongside Jones. Craziest stuff I've ever seen. That much I can tell you. She was shaking her head. Finkel says we should go out there and get the others. She studied me and Jones. You share our grim duo. Darling cracked a grin. What do you guys think? There's some serial freezer out there, right? A Jack Frost type, going around and blasting people with a freeze ray or some stuff. There you go, Jones, I said. There's your top secret government experiment. They've got a freeze ray. Jones' mouth blinked a smile. It was a crummy situation for all of us. We were trying to keep our spirits up, I think. No easy task when there's a dead body in the other room. Darling withdrew a deck of cards and I watched as the 2 women played a game of war. Their chatter filled the canteen and I was left thinking about that poor frozen soul in the infirmary. Who was it? Why were there frozen people out there in the blizzard? Why were they so eerie? Finkel entered the room and took it next to me, putting his hands over one another on the table. He stroked his beard and stared at the reflective surface of the bench table. What's up, Fink? Asked Darling. He sighed. It's Jensen.
Pocong.
It took us a moment to realize what he was saying. Dr. Donald Jensen was one of the researchers that had left our facility days
Itu dia nampak Norman ke Brody yang biar. Support ya guys. Support ya guys. Saya hanya baru menggunakan one ya guys. Saya tidak pandai. Si Amar tak silap aku ada skin collector one ni.
Dia.
Kan banyak juga skin collector dia. Baru nak mam. Bos. Betul lah. Trial. Betul trial seimbang. Mana ada trial? Mana ada collector trial? Ada collector trial. Ada. Mana ada trial?
Taman.
Kau nak tembak agak mah.
Puasa pun tak tipu.
Kau bulan puasa pun menipu kata dosa. Masuk Melaka. What am I take? Dapat lagi Zas. Dapat lagi pula. Dapat lagi pakai emblem hero ni. Emblem pahlawan. Ada. Itulah emblem kecil.
Oh, Zas dia. Lah, kau one kan? Kenapa aku ambil?
By the way, budak tadi tu, dia ada invite aku main. Aku cakap nak tunggu 10 minit biar aku invite dia.
Dia satu squad dengan si Bangang tu.
Satu tim kami 2 kot.
Aku malas. Kau hyper lah?
Tak.
Kau hyper malas tu.
Dah hyper lah aku tak pakai retri.
Aku tak pakai retri.
Tak. Kau pakai retri.
Well played.
Jamar bantu aku hyper. Nanti kejap ambil ni kejap. Dia jangan bantu aku ambil buff. Tolong saya.
Selena baru belajar je. Tiba pula ni datang.
Ini dia pro tau.
Serius? Jangan main dulu. Tak lawa.
Ya Allah, tak ada damage bodoh one awal kill.
3 gila kat bawah ni.
Bantai je lah. Kau spam je skill 1. Yes pula. Ni Selena dia macam mana?
Rekod kat situ.
Baru belajar ke Selena dia?
Main 3 boleh ya.
Banyak track bodoh. 1, 2 Selena punya track lagi ni. Track lagi tu. Kau nak bawa?
Tak. Aku nak XP.
SP. Mana lagi? SP tak dapat. 3 orang sini. SP jadi tak ada.
Aku tak dapat tak. Hang ni. Aku tak nak.
Alif nun cha alif wow. Lancau.
Cincau.
Ada orang lah sini.
Oh lah, ini dia boleh tahan. Aku boleh tak dapat.
Ambil je lah. Tak adalah tahan mana pun. Itu lancau.
Okay.
Itu lancau.
Sorry. Kau pergi bawah. Aku nak pergi tengah.
Dia mah kau gila bawah aku kat mid lah. Dia match kita tu Bruno lah. Padahal baru je pakai. Iya. Bruno sakit ya. Dulu zaman-zaman meta Bruno ya Allah. Terobat dong.
Zaman-zaman Ronaldo dulu kuat Ronaldinho.
Sekarang pakai mungkin Neymar pula tuh tak sedap. Ush. Not bad
Dua gila kat bawah ya Allah.
Nanda.
Korban.
Wait.
Tiga.
Mar pergi bawah. Syamar bawah. Aku ingat Syamar pakai Zas. Keliru aku Zas ni. Zas dengan Syamar ni hero sama.
Dah tak payah sini. Aduh, tak iyalah buka skill kau kat sini, Mar.
Dapat
Dia dapat. Pisang kan. Dapatkan bola-bola besar.
Tak ada bro ulti aku. Pelik ya. Padahal aku dah hit dah Fanny dah banyak kali. Untuk baru level 5 untuk lepas ni.
Tak apa, kau ambil.
Tak payah.
Aku nak XP gila. Aku nak XP.
Yalah.
Depan lah.
Dah lah aku dah. Ada. Tengok kau. Aku suruh jauh-jauh masuk balik dia. Jom atas tu. Pantai orang atas. Tak tahu.
Pakai tu dengan Zaz ni macam tak hidup lah. Baik mati.
Kita tadi pro. Tadi lah. Wih. Wih. Band dia sakit betul.
Dah ban match. Memang.
Gila sekali sudah je aku meninggal.
Dah aku cakap ban match.
Ya aku tahu lah kali ni ramai lah. Cik agak-agak lah. Item dia baru 2 kot.
Dah yang belum dia tinggi.
Mana tahu je. Kau stalker. Kau hack kan. Kau tengok macam orang.
Apa cheater yang berjaya.
Kacau siap dia ni. Iya aku mau speed. Ramainya. Berkicap Fanny dia. Masih silap lah.
Ini Bruno Supreme senyap.
Apaan kecil. Aku tolong atas. Tak puas hati aku dengan dia punya ni.
Ini Bruno Supreme. Lapar lah. Lapar tu.
Ada. Kesandakan apa jadi?
Ada banyak lah. Baik bangunan. Abang mal ada.
Tu kau nak makan apa mall ke?
Kalau boleh tak besar ni. Makan.
Makan tiang-tiang lah itu. Menyampah pula aku tengok warna-warni lompat-lompat. Warna lompat kan? Masa aku pakai susah.
Orang kata pengalaman.
Buka ulti Mar, buka ulti.
Kanju deru.
Tak dapat ulti. Hilang balik ulti aku. Ferry datang. Ya Allah, Ferry dia sakit lah. Habislah kau. Ferry dia dah tak tu dah. Apa surrender ni? Apa surrender ni? Zas ke? Kena. Nasib Selena dia tak laju tangan dia. Itu aku nak beli. Oh. Kena ding dong.
Aduh, lapar tu. Aku nak makan.
Ih. Anti aku mana? Ya, aku nak charge phone.
Phone
We're
aku
behind in
mana tu?
gold.
Tak faham aku.
Tengah malam nanti aku nak on pula. Charge phone.
Dengan kamera aku baru tadi jatuh pecah. Ih, pecah. Waduh, anjay. Tak ada mood aku nak main game.
Beli baru lah.
Wow. Memang phone ni RM1 tu.
Mesin dia pun.
Boleh lah. Buah pinggang kau dah jual kan?
Buah pinggang 830,000. 830,000.
The
Oh,
shift
okey
change.
lah. Aku tak minta banyak lah. Aku nak
How is
kereta.
that possible? We had been in communication with the leaving team members up until the blizzard hit. They had already boarded a plane that would take them home.
Lambo gitu.
We had all said bye to them over the radio.
Gitu.
As far as we all knew,
Bukan
Eh,
we
kau
were
nak tahu
already back home.
Free Fire gabung
So,
dengan
how
Zizan.
is it that Jensen was sitting dead in the infirmary? He should have been hundreds of miles away.
Malaysia ni pun.
Well,
duit ke?
Jones tossed her hand of cards onto the table,
Aku pun nak
letting them
collect
splatter
duit ke?
across the hard surface.
Kat Malaysia tu.
Guess you were right, Andrew. Those are humans out there for sure. Finkel drummed his thumb against his
TML
leg.
gabung dengan Jujutsu Kaisen.
I suppose we should gather their bodies.
Betul.
This time, though, he glanced at me
Gimana?
and Jones.
Of course.
We'll do it right.
Astagfirullah.
Veteran
So,
orang beli
it was
gojo.
that we gathered the other 5
Free
statue
Fire
people out of the
Fire
fixed
lah.
room
PUBG collect
outside,
dengan McLaren.
tilting them over so that we could more easily drag them along
Kereta dia
like stiff boards.
Tapi tak ada laju.
Donovan stood in the doorway, ushering and cheerleading us as me and the other 3 did the
Kau
heavy
pernah main
lifting.
kat apa? Miramar.
None of us were surprised at the
Yeah.
odd faces we had found. After laying them out with the
Kereta-
heaters in the infirmary,
Kereta warna
it
emas.
was the other half of our team.
Tak pernah.
6 people
panjang,
frozen to
yang laju.
death. I've seen people lose
Ikat pada
fingers or
pasir tu.
toes to the cold, all black and brittle. I've even seen people receive permanent damage on their noses or ears from it.
Yang
This
leper.
was different
Yang
though.
tak ada bumbung.
They were frozen,
Yang tak ada bumbung.
but they had not lost the colors they had in life.
Aku tahu kau
It
semua
was
kena
uncomfortable to
panjang,
look at
tak
them.
boleh panjang.
Considering Jones said she had seen them out the
Ya Allah,
road for
Feli
days,
sakit.
their skin should be
Kenapa
unrecognizable.
Feni tadi tak pro
This
ni?
wasn't your run-of-the-mill frostbite.
Acah-acah darat buat Feni ni.
Me and the rest of the living members of the team didn't mention it, opting instead to
Ben dia
cast
pun sekali
unsettled glances at
tembak
one
ni
another.
mati tiga.
Finkel and Donovan
Bukan.
took care of the bodies once they had softened, covering them in blankets and arranging them in the infirmary in a perfect line against the far wall from the door.
Mantap lah.
Craziest stuff I've ever seen, Darlene said
Kau balik
repeatedly.
dulu.
Jones, I think, felt guilty, and I attempted to comfort her,
nampak tak?
patting her on the shoulder. She gave me a stiff smile.
Weh, mati terus
It's
bodoh.
not your fault.
Apa
you
ni,
know that,
Batman ni?
right? I know, she said, her lips
Ui,
pulled
sakit,
tight.
dah sakit.
I just wish I would have said something earlier. Yeah,
bodoh tu kau mati,
said
kau masuk.
Darlene. Without you,
Kau
they would
mati.
still be out there. We gathered
Bodoh
in
tak
the
banjir,
canteen
Marwan.
and shared in the chore of
Macam orang
cooking.
pakai ni.
Strangely
Ui,
enough,
kebal gila
the
kau
deaths
gitu.
of our team members did not settle the morbid silence over the room like I thought it
Tapi dia
would.
beli tu je pun.
If anything, the tragedy had strengthened our bonds in the canteen was filled with the smell of food and
On
the
the way,
noise
apa
of
ni?
friendly
Apa ni?
conversation. Finkel disappeared and returned with a bottle of
Nice, bili-bili.
wine, popping the top and pouring us all glasses. We toasted to the dead and ate,
Skin siapa
played
dia nak
cards,
collect dengan dia?
talked about anything besides the corpses.
Aku rasa tu kot. Yang
Just as
macam
Finkel
kau
yawned
lagi
himself
lah.
out of the mess hall and Donovan soon followed, I realized that I was the third wheel in a game between Darling and Jones.
Dah susah nak buat
We continued to play
KOF
cards
tu
and
susah
broke into the
dah.
cooking sherry.
Dorang je yang
With
normal-normal.
our teeth stained red and Jones and Darling fondling each other's fingertips,
Memang
I
tak
removed
boleh
myself with a quick good night,
lah aku nak
received with little protest. I returned to my room and stripped to my thermals,
aku bayar jam setengah.
and fell asleep on a full warm stomach with a dizzy brain. I awoke to a biting chill in my room. Reaching for the bedside lamp and finding it dead, I sat up in my mess of blankets.
Aku kena stun.
After rummaging around in the drawer
Bang,
near the
balik
bed,
bang. Jangan doa.
I got a flashlight and turned it on.
Aku pun takut.
I could see my own breath in the cutting beam of light. Crap.
Paling dekat bodoh.
I said aloud and reached for my clothes near the bed.
Gila lah dorang ni.
Bundling up, I stumbled sleepily into the hall, squinting in the darkness with my guiding light.
Perlu sangat ni.
As I was wiping sleepers from my eyes, my light
Dia punya
caught the
anjing muka
surprised
rasa
face
mampus.
of Donovan, and he spun around, swinging his arms and letting out a yelp. I caught his wild hand and it was bone cold.
Ding, ding,
Hey,
Ini dia, ya Allah.
pushing the glasses up on the bridge of his nose and shirking his arm out of my grasp.
Ya aku mana?
Power's
Ya
out.
aku macam mana nak hidup?
Yeah,
Tak
any
itu,
idea
penny
why?
laju tu.
I don't know, I just woke up. Me too. Darlene pushed her head from her bunk room, yawning. Jesus, it's freezing. She was stripped down to her undies and hid behind the bulky door. Oh, she said, looking at me and Donovan standing in the hall. What's with the power? Jones emerged from Darlene's room as well, wrapped in a quilt, peering at us from behind the other woman, and covering her eyes as I shone the light in their direction. Quit it. Shine that somewhere else, please. I did. Finkel's grumbling voice could be heard from the far end of the hallway leading deeper into the facility. Someone's cut the main line, he said, eyeing each of us suspiciously on his approach. Don't look at me, said Donovan. I just woke up. Us too, said Jones and Darling in unison. I yawned my answer and then caught myself. Hey, Fink, what were you doing down there anyway? I was checking the breakers. Was going to see if I could find a way to flip the power back on once I noticed it was off. But someone cut straight through the line. What about the backup, Jenny? I asked. Busted to crap. Looks like somebody beat it with a hammer, he said while shaking his head. Our ghostly breast hung in the air as we all looked around the hallway. Was it possible that one of us had sabotaged our own life support? That couldn't have been it. No, we were all a bit jumpy from the frozen corpses, that was all. That's what made sense. Finkel circled his finger in the air. Everyone to the mess room. We settled into the bench tables in the canteen, gathering candles from the cupboards, lighting them, and placing them throughout the room so that everything cast long, dancing shadows. The wind outside only seemed to pick up, and although the place was lit in a warm glow, we were all chattering and shivering against a ticking clock. So, who's your money on there, Fink? Asked Darlene. If I had to guess, I'd say it's your military boy over there. She motioned to Donovan, who clenched his jaw and tapped his foot. Oh yeah? Said Donovan. Wouldn't surprise me if it was you. You're the only one here as a freelance contractor. What the heck does that have to do with anything? Asked Darlene. You're the weirdo that holes up in his room all day. Think, said Donovan. Why would I cut the power? I'm here too. I need heat. He rubbed his arms. It's freaking freezing. You really think that I would hurt myself just to freeze you out? Are you crazy? She mocked his protest, jabbering her hand in a pantomime fashion. Regardless, said Finkel, we're all here now. The power's out, someone cut it. I can't imagine why any one of us would. Comms had been down for days and days now, so I can't fathom why whoever did it would add freezing to death to the list of things we have to worry about. I don't think any of us did it. He settled his lower back against the kitchen counter. Why would we? Maybe it was one of them, said Jones. We all knew what she meant. One of the frozen corpses we had hauled out of that terrible blizzard. Now's not the time for your wild imaginings, Jones, said Finkelwell, holding up his hand. I mean it, said Jones. Those things give me the heebie-jeebies. Those things, I said, are our team members, in case you've forgotten. Jones glanced at me, and I saw the injury in her eyes. I didn't mean it like that. I just meant... Her voice faltered and fell off. Thinking Andrew's right, said Donovan. Dead people aren't getting up and cutting our power. Don't be ridiculous. Darling chimed in. Oh yeah, I think Donovan's right. He would know, considering he's probably the one that did it. Donovan shook his head. Are you dense? We've gone over this. I would freeze too. Are you stupid, or do you just like to pick fights for no reason? Darling stood, pointing a finger at Donovan. I know you're a creep. I've seen the way you look at me and Jen. You probably got a few marbles loose from that tour in Iraq. Saw some stuff over there, didn't you? Now you thought you would cut the power and take us out in our sleep. I've seen guys like you before. Totally normal, and then one day, you flip a switch and then bam. She snapped her fingers. You murder an entire group of people. Her hand came down on the table in a swift smack. Donovan sat slowly, dumbfounded, mouth agape. That's enough, said Finkel, crossing his arms. It's cold, Notlin. It's only going to get colder. I glanced at the thermometer. 7 degrees Celsius. I guessed it would drop below zero within the hour. We need to insulate this room. If we stay together, we'll be warmer, if only a little. He too looked at the thermometer, shaking his head and checking the watch on his wrist. Gather up blankets, pillows, coats, scarves, anything and everything that might retain some heat. What about the dogs? Asked Jones. What about them? Asked Donovan. Forget them, they're dogs, they've got fur. Don't be like that, I spoke up. Don't be like what? Asked Donovan in a harassed way. She's over here talking about me cutting the power. He motioned to Darling. And now her little girlfriend is worried about some dumb animals. Am I dreaming, or is everybody losing their dang minds? We'll bring the dogs in, said Finkel, adding, more warm bodies that way. I guess that makes sense, grumbled Donovan. Someone had to explain it to you in order for you to show a little compassion, I asked. I guess I'm the bad guy, he said. No one's the bad guy, said Finkel, stroking his peppered beard. We bundled into coats, jackets, gloves, and our respective rooms and returned to the canteen with piles of blankets and pillows. Darling and Jones took up a post nearest the kitchen area. I bedded down near the doorway leading into the hall a few feet from Finkel. Donovan sulked in the far corner. The two women left to gather the dogs. I offered to help, but they assured me they would be fine. I gathered a few nearby lit candles to stave off the chill permeating the room, and tried cracking open Metamorphosis again. Finkel cut this short, talking to me in a hushed whisper. I glanced at Donovan to be sure he wasn't listening. What do you think? He asked. About? I asked, setting the book to the side. About all of this. I don't know. I think it's cold. You know what I mean. Between you and me, I think one of us cut the power. I know it wasn't me. Well, how do you know it wasn't me? I asked him. He wheezed out a small chuckle, keeping his voice low. That is exactly why I don't think it's you, he said. Really? I cracked a grin. I haven't entirely ruled you out as a suspect either, boss man. He shifted and pulled up the hood of his parka and withdrew something from one of his inner coat pockets. I caught the shine of a flask and heard him unscrew it. He took a swig and offered it to me. It won't actually warm you up, but it'll help you forget that you're cold. I took it and sipped and then passed it back to him. Jeez, that's rank stuff. He chuckled. More for me then. He took a healthy drink and re-screwed the top, placing it somewhere within all those layers. I think it's Donovan, he sighed. I'm trying to keep everyone calm, but I really think it's him. I raised my brow. Really? Why? Tell me. Finkel shrugged. I trust you. The woman returned with the 6 sled dogs in tow. The pitter-pattering animals scrambled through the canteen, pushing their wet noses in every corner, sniffing. The black and white, curly-furred dog came straight up to me, sticking its paws directly onto my lap and pressing its face into my neck. I could hear its heavy breathing as it smelled me. Hey there, Steve, calm down. I pushed him down a little, and he settled near my feet, resting his eyes and exhaling softly. The wind continued to batter against the facility, and every so often, one of the dog's ears would perk up in attention, and then settle back down upon the realization that it was only the wind. Donovan settled into his corner with his back against a wall, and watched the rest of us over the top of a book. Jones and Darling played cards while Finkel snored beside me. I wrapped my arms around my midsection and tried to drift off to sleep. Steve, the mutt, curled up beside me, and I threw a series of blankets over me and him. Good boy, I whispered into his ear. With some effort, I drifted into a sweating